Here's our Jeopardy submission file that has all of our links on it. There's our COD link, our GitHub link, our YouTube link will be on there after this video is made, and then our project info. Our leader was Ryan Morris Scott. We made Jeopardy using PHP. We made a Jeopardy game created with HTML, CSS, and PHP covering web programming concepts. And our team members were Ryan Morris Scott, Lola John, and Aiden Cottrell. Alright, thank you.
All right, I'm Ryan,
I'm Demi.
And I'm Aiden.
and we created Jeopardy.
Okay.
Problem. So, our problem was to create a web-based Jeopardy quiz game that would allow users to sign up, log in, play Jeopardy rounds, and track their performance, all while still being in a structured and interactive interface. Background. So, this project was developed as part of our programming course aimed at combining front end and back end development skills. So using HTML, CSS, PHP for the session handling. The goal was to stimulate the logic of Jeopardy while maintaining a clean and functional user experience. Objectives. So our objective was to create a Jeopardy-like game with user interaction. So we had to handle the user interaction, the sign up, the login, the log out, dynamically serve questions so they could get different questions every time they play, calculate scores, provide session-based game flow and control. The challenges we encountered, so managing success sessions effectively between rounds, structuring game state transitions, ensuring validation in login-signup, and keeping the UI intuitive with basic yet clean styling. And our Scrum benefits. So through Scrum, we were able to increase our flexibility and adaptability. So with Scrum, it really encourages iterative progress with sprints. So we were able to adjust our priorities, our features, and deadlines based on the feedback we were giving each other. It improved our focus and efficiency. So using sprints really ensured that our team was keeping focus and being specific and delivering our goals within that set time frame. The roles were able to be kept clean and our responsibilities were clear. So it defined distinct roles. It ensured everybody understood what their responsibilities were. And this reduced confusion and improved our collaboration. And then just continuous improvement. So regularly being able to see back on our progress, and we were able to reflect on everything we've done so far. So we were able to continuously improve our project. And then our team structure. So as a team of 3, we divided our roles equally among our strengths. So I personally took on the front end UI part, so the design of the actual game board and the styling of the pages. Aiden, he took on the back end, so the implementation of the sign up and login features, a lot of the session handling, so the login, log out, sign up. Oh, you know what? I messed that up. Can we redo this slide? Can I reread this
Yeah,
one?
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So as a team of 3, we divided the roles equally, kind of based on our strengths. So I personally did the front end UI, so the design of the actual game board and the interactive features, so the colors changing and things like that, and the overall styling. The back end, so the implementation of the sign up and login features using the login.html page, the login PHP, logout PHP, sign up, all those. And then that was Dami. And then the login and integration, this was Aiden. So the PHP development of the game, so the game.php, question.php, the session handling, all that.
Okay, so now here we have our demo run. I'll go ahead and play it.
And welcome to our Jeopardy project demo run. So as you can see here, when the project is first loaded up, we are met with a sign up screen with 2 input fields, one for your username and your other for your password. And as you can see here, if you already have an account, you can click this hyperlink and it'll take you to our login screen, which is a similar UI to our sign up screen. So I'll go ahead and start and sign up. Username, I'll just use my name, and then I'll do a simple password to remember it. And so then after we sign up, we are brought into our actual game screen. And as you can see here, we have a lot on this one screen. So first we have our title up top, which is Web Programming Jeopardy. And then we have our table, which contains our categories and our questions. So our 4 categories are HTML, CSS, PHP, and JavaScript. These are all web programming languages that we have been learning throughout the semester. And then as you can see here, we have 5 questions per category, and whenever we hover, they change color. And so whenever we actually do select on these questions, there's a chance of 1 of 2 questions being selected and displayed to us. And this is done through a function that we have defined in our code that chooses randomly. And so then as we see up in our top left corner, we have a turn indicator, and the current turn is always defaulted to player 1, which gives a sort of unfair advantage to player 1. So plan accordingly. And then we also have our log out button in the top right corner, which allows you to, as it says, log out, and it destroys the session, so it restarts. So if you were to log out in the middle of the game and then come back in, the score and the question progress would be reset. And so as you can see here, we do have our individual score indicators for each player. And then so now we can start selecting our questions. So we'll start off with CSS for 100. And then when we select on the question, or the points, we are brought to the question screen, which shows the category that we have selected in and our question, along with text displaying which player's answer this is, and this is indicative of which player's turn it was when the question was chosen. And so then as we can see, defaulted in the box is the text what is, as is normal Jeopardy play. And then now we'll just type in our answer, which we know for this one is color, colon, and then we hit submit answer. And so then after we submit our answer, we can see that the answer is revealed instead of the numbers, and we are no longer allowed to click on the question. It is disabled. And since we got that answer correct, we can see that the point values are added to our score indicator for the player who chose the question. And since player 1 got the question right, it is still his turn, and he is able to choose the next question. So now, to demonstrate what happens when a question is gotten wrong, we will proceed to our next question, CSS for 200. So this is how you reference a class in CSS. We know the answer is dot and then whatever the class name is, but we're going to get this one wrong, so we're going to type in #ID, and then we'll submit that answer. So now we see that we've gotten the question wrong, and our turn indicator has switched over to player 2, and now the score has been deducted based on the value of the question points, which is 200, so 100 minus 200 is -100. And so now we will demonstrate what happens when all questions are selected. And so I'll just go through and start answering. This tag is used to attach a script. That is open tag, close tag script. Let me make sure I spell it right. Submit answer. We'll just go through and answer some more of these. This is the largest heading tag, H1, submit, and then HTML for 300. The meaning of HTML, that is hypertext markup language. Submit that answer. And then 400, this tag is used for hyperlinks. We know that is the A tag. And then 500, we'll get this one wrong. This loads an HTML boilerplate in most IDEs. Now we know the correct answer is exclamation point, but like I said, we're going to get this one wrong, so we'll hit comment tag, JavaScript comment tag, not even HTML's, submit answer, and then we see it pops up here. We lost our points, and now it's switched back to player 1. And I'll continue. CSS for 300. This property changes the layering level of elements. That is Z index. Submit answer. CSS for 400. This scales elements relative to the screen size. That is the %. Submit. Okay, and then this scales relative to font size. That is EM. Okay. PHP for 100. We'll get this one wrong. The symbol used to start a variable, we know that is $, but we will say caret. Submit. Okay, now PHP 200. This is how you output text in PHP. We know that is the keyword echo. PHP for 300. This function is used to check if a variable is set and not null. We know that is set, parentheses, submit. Okay, this function is used to count the number of elements in an array. That is count with parentheses because it's a function. Okay, and now this method is used to open a file. That is fopen. Oh, and autocorrect is going to try to make me get the question wrong. All right, now we'll go to JavaScript for 100. We'll get this one right. Do the comment symbol, and then we'll get this one wrong. This is how you define a potentially changing variable. That is let. If it was to stay static, that would be const. We know that. Okay, and now JavaScript for 300. This method is used to add one or more elements to the end of an array. That is push. And then we'll get this one wrong. The object that represents the current browser page. Now we know that is window, but I'll just say something wrong like document. And then 400. The object that represents the current web page. Oh, well, that is document, so we'll submit that. And then so when we submit this, since this is the last question, all of the questions will be answered and will be brought to our game over screen that will display the player with the higher point value. And so now we'll go ahead and see this now when I hit submit answer. Now we see it says game over, and it says congratulations to the player with the more points, and then displays how many points they had. And now from here, as you can see, we have a little confetti animation, but we also have two buttons, start a new game and log out. Now if you want to start a new game, it'll start with your same username and password, but the session will be destroyed, so it will be just for the points, and turn indicator will be reset back to their default values. And log out will destroy the session, but will also get rid of your username and password, so that is what that is. So we'll go ahead and just hit start new game just to show. See, it resets everything. We can answer all the questions again, and some of the questions will be different. We'll just click on one. Okay, well this one's not different. We'll answer this. Markup, language. And we'll just try to find one that's different. Here we go. This is how to write a loop through an array. We know this one is for each, but now as we can see, it was a different question as it was previously. And then if you can no longer play, something gets interrupted or something happens where you have to go, you can just hit log out and the session is reset, and from here you can log in again. And that is all for the demo run. Now on to the rest of the presentation.
Okay, so here we have some key aspects of our code. This is the login PHP file and the sign up PHP file. So as you can see, the login is checking for set usernames and passwords and is posting that to our PHP files. And that determines whether you get taken to the actual game file or you're told invalid username or password. And then here's just the HTML to set the structure for that. And then here's the sign up, which is collecting form data from when you first fill in that form. And so now we have the game.php file. So this is our main core gameplay that has that loads the question boxes and the categories with some options. So as you can see here, it's defaulting some of our values like player scores and current turns on the session, of course, the session being started first. And then here's our condition to check if all questions have been asked, which will take us to our game over screen. And then this is just toggling if answer is incorrect. So it'll switch the turns over. Did not mean to put the comment twice, but this is our function for getting the answer and then loading that onto the question box after the question is answered. And then here's just some more of the HTML and CSS for these. And then these are what our question boxes look like. and they have these echoes are basically just waiting to see if it is disabled and then prints the answer onto it. And so now we have our question.php file, which is going to have our arrays of our questions, as you can see here. And it's also going to be processing the answer submissions and updating the scores and the session via whatever the answer is, whether it's correct or wrong. So as you can see here, we have used answers that go with our used question set, and we have it taking to the game file if the question is already used. And there's also a code if you get the answer correct or false, it'll take you to the page, and that will determine if you get points added or negated and whose turn it is. And then here's some more CSS for the pop-ups whenever you click on the question boxes. And so now here's our gameover.php file. This displays the final score and the win of the game along with the confetti. As you can see here, it has some conditions just to make sure that you are where you're supposed to be. And so it will show the winner here, the winner score, and it'll update. And in the case that there's somehow a tie, which there shouldn't be, but if there is, there's a condition for that as well. And then the session is destroyed at the end, and you have your options to either start a new game or log out. And so then here we have our logout.php. It's just short and simple. It ends the session and redirects you back to the login. And then we have our HTML and CSS files, which structured and styled the entire files, all of them. So we just have some of that. And then, so some methodologies we used. We had backend logic, which we used procedural PHP scripting for. And as you can see here, I showed previously, but here's some more examples of the PHP within. Just sessions being started and destroyed depending on where you're at, and manipulated. And then we have session handling, which goes kind of hand in hand with PHP, but it's more so for the score and progress. So the values, as you can see here, the score, used questions would be progress in this case, answers as well, and just some more of that. Okay, and I'll pass it off to Damie.
All right. So now we have the novel approaches and crucial parts for the code base. So for the novel approaches, the question logic is modular, likely allowing like future expansions of categories or difficulty levels. Use of multiple PHP entry points keep each game state isolated and manageable. Visuals and structure emulate the Jeopardy theme, even with the limited styling tools. And now for the crucial parts. Definitely the session logic in game PHP and question PHP. It keeps tracks of the user's progress and score. Form validation and the data transfer between PH files, and lastly the game loop controls through the game loop control through pages transitioning logically, creating a self-contained round cycle. And so our conclusion. So for this project, it really like provides like a clean, functional implementation of what Jeopardy is and how the game is using like the core web technology. It demonstrates a solid understanding of page flow, user authentication, and session-based logic. So for our next steps, though, we probably might just add like enhanced security to like implement password hashing and secure session handling. Add a database. Definitely add a database to store like questions and answers in the database instead of a static code. Feature improved styling, maybe more dynamic user interface with modern CSS or frameworks like Bootstrap. Add leaderboards or user stats, mobile optimization, and the admin panel for adding questions. All right. Is there any questions? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you. Have a nice day.